Hello everyone, and welcome to Straight Chilling. Each week we watch and review a horror film for your entertainment. You can send all questions and comments to straightchillingpodcast@gmail.com, and don't forget to keep chilling.
Yeah, we straight chillin', serial killing. 5 cold feelings on the mind, got you reeling. 5-star ratings from the floor to the ceiling. If you get your 1 star, no time for feelings. Got a demon DJ, all the 1s and 2s. By the name Elzebub, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast them all in 2. And prepare to hear the legend of the straight chillin' crew.
What up, nerds? Welcome to another head-banging episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name is Bob, and I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode number 292, recorded Sunday, November 8th, 2020. Tonight, we're going to be talking about yet another Patreon pick. This one was chosen by the one, the only Heidelberg. The movie is Terrified from 2017. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got our boy Randy Gandy G. Landy. What's up, man?
Hello, gentlemen.
Hello, gentlemangs. How's it going?
Pretty good, I think.
Yep.
Dare I say.
Yep.
Pretty good.
You know, it's been crazy around here, you know?
Why? Why is that?
Because we're doing this episode. We've got another Heidelberg pick. The people were dancing in the streets, stoked for this Terrifier pick.
Terrified.
Fireworks.
Terrified
honking,
pick.
Terrified. I'm sorry, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they didn't get it right either, so it's confusing me.
They don't know why, but they're really stoked about getting
They're all really
scared.
stoked, and then they're like, oh shit, wait, no, it's the Argentinian one?
Oh.
I guess that's fine.
I can read. So that's cool. Whatever, you know. Last but not least, we got our boy Asoju calling in from the Southern Korea. What's up, man?
What up? It's your boy Face Stains here to break it down for you.
You're gonna break down?
What are you
Here,
This movie really hit you hard.
I'm breaking it down.
Oh,
My people dancing in the streets, I hear. Celebrating the soju. Is that what they're out for?
I mean, no, not at all. No one has implied that or said that. So it's interesting that you came to that conclusion.
I have the biggest celebrations. They always tell me I do.
They
Quite
always
ironic.
tell you about the celebrations for you that
Yeah,
you're
they
not
do.
invited to. That's what
Yeah.
we have.
It would ruin it if he showed up.
I totally have them. For shaboy.
They chant my name through the streets and everything, I hear.
Is that no?
I was waiting for... there.
Yeah.
The one guy is
Yeah, I was
definitely
waiting-
doing that
I was
on this
waiting for-
recording.
One dude out there, he's real stoked about you.
And everybody's looking at him real weird because they're here for Terrifier.
Terrified.
Terrified.
Whatever.
I tried to split the difference because I forgot midway through.
Terrified.
Terrified.
Tear.
You're terrified.
Heard that.
Yes.
Heard that. Oh,
I didn't hear that, but I heard that.
Before we get into the movie review, let's tackle some housekeeping real quick. If you support us at the $5 level over on our Patreon page, you get the chance to vote on our monthly poll picks. It's a brand new month, so we've got a brand new poll pick up there. Our December poll pick is currently posted, and the theme is Santa Chaos Goes Global. And
You read it.
I did
Yeah,
it.
way to be
Look at you.
professional, Bob.
I did it.
Oh, Bob.
Ooh,
Yes, Bob.
yes.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Bob.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
See, Rob gets chance too.
Mine are just real fucking sexual.
Yeah. Imagine a whole crowd chanting that way.
That'd be bizarre. Also, I don't need to imagine, Randy.
You might need to imagine.
Maybe so. The 3 movies you can vote between are going to be Santa Claus vs. the Devil, Deadly Games, and Rare Exports.
Oh, Bob.
Juice.
How are those numbers looking so far?
They're looking mighty fine. Rare Exports is winning, and Deadly Games and Santa Claus vs. the Devil are fairly close to one another, but they're back. They're way on back.
Okay. Rare exports.
Yep.
Okay.
Looking pretty good. So make sure.
What nation gave us that film?
Norway.
Norway. Okay.
I want to. That's the right, isn't it? Finland. I knew it was Nordic.
Yeah.
We
were
in the Nordic
corrected
area.
by Mads. Thank you, Mads. Who's
Ah,
a resident
thanks, Mads.
Norwegian, keeping us straight.
This is why you got to have a representative at the table every time.
You got to.
Isn't that like where Santa Claus lives when we're not inside the United States? Like I know he lives in the South Pole or no, the North Pole. Wait,
I think it's Mar-a-Lago.
He lives at the North Pole, but when like everybody else says he lives in Finland, right? Is that correct?
I don't know.
I don't know. I think he spends a lot of time in like the Isle of Fire and shit. I don't know. Like
we'll look it up for you by the time December comes around.
Yeah, the Misfit Toys Island or some shit.
Mads, call in and let us know where Santa Claus lives, please.
Tell us the story of Nordic Santa, of Finnish, I guess I should say, Santa.
Finny Santa. Anyway, get your votes in before the end of November, and we'll be talking about one of those movies this December. Also, in Patreon news, we have a brand new Patreon supporter we got to give some shouts-outs to.
Whoa.
Lisa R., thank you for showing us some love on the Patreon, helping us keep the lights on. Every dollar y'all contribute goes right back into the show, and it means a lot to us. As is tradition round these here parts, we owe you the straight chilling salute. This one goes out to Lisa.
Slap my ass!
Thank
you, Lisa, for that nice slap right in the ass.
Mm-hmm.
God bless you for keeping these cheeks red and puffy.
Puffy, God.
Well, Rob, you got to put your back into it.
Yeah, apparently so. Yeah, that's all we got going on with the Patreon. Do you fellas have anything you need to weigh in on?
Oh, I need to get this off my chest. No, I got nothing. Fuck it.
Housekeeping. We got a brand new top 5 Tuesday that dropped since I guess our last episode.
Yeah.
On the old YouTubes. That's youtube.com/straight chillin' podcast.
Slow down.
Straight chillin' podcast.
You what?
So on that, I was talking about my top 5 space horror films, specifically not sci-fi. You got to be in space for these movies. So space horror films. I kind of want to get away from spooky season a little bit, give it a little space during my hangover period. So yeah, I talked about some space horror films, which are
I'd fuck a space vampire.
Yeah, I know you would, Matt. I know you would.
Matt has made it clear, and it's immortalized, that he would fuck a space vampire.
All right.
If anybody wants to ask Matt some questions on that, please loop us in. We have questions of our own.
So yeah. Other than that, though, that was all of my housekeeping.
Dope. All right. I think this house has been kept. Let's go ahead and get into the main event. We're going to be talking about Terrified, and we're kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
What's on the back of the box? So in the States...
You got a box?
I don't.
What's
a box does exist, though. A box exists for this. In the States, this is a Shudder exclusive, and Shudder recently started putting a lot of their exclusives out on Blu-ray, so you can pick this one up. Apparently in South Korea, it's on Netflix, though, right, Juice?
Yeah. I was gonna check on that because it's been not only is it on Netflix in South Korea, it's been on my Netflix all year long because I've gone across it, and the poster always reminds me of that dude from the new Star Wars movies. What's his name? Snoke. Yeah. And I was always like, what is this movie? Looks like old Snoke's crawling up in here. But I never watched it. But it has stuck out to me. This, seriously, it's legit. I even thought it was older than that. But the date on Netflix says 2020. But it's been on here a hot minute. So I don't know what Shudder's talking about with this Shudder exclusive. Did they and it came out in 2017 too. Yeah, so it's not like they paid to have it made
to Shudder. No. It's been on there for a minute. It's not new.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is a Spanish language film, and it's written and directed by the same fella, Demian Rugna. I'm sure I'd mispronounce that. Sorry.
No, I think you nailed it,
great,
bud.
Bob.
You got it.
Thanks.
You got it.
Thanks, guys. The plot is as follows. When strange events occur in a neighborhood in Buenos Aires, a doctor specializing in the paranormal, her colleague, and a police officer decide to investigate further. Gentlemen, had you seen this before? Would you recommend people check it out? Randy?
Yeah, so I had definitely heard about this before. This movie had quite a bit of buzz, as I recall, in like a 2017, 2018 area. I saw it on quite a few like end of year lists and things like that. So it's been on my radar. I've been wanting to see it, but I've intentionally kept the details from it away from myself. I believe I was advised to do so by one of those lists. So as far as recommendation goes, I would not particularly. I would say, I mean, without getting into just straight up reviewing it, I would say if you want some pretty decent scares and you're, willing to put in the time on any movie, I think you could do a lot worse. But for me, I don't know if I'm going to go back to this well. So I don't recommend it hard. It's not a hard recommend from me.
Gotcha. Nice lukewarm recommend from Randy. Juice, what about you?
Yeah, this movie, it scared me because it's very much like a tension-based movie where things pop out, lots of kind of jump scares, but they try to kind of deliver on it. It's not like completely cheap or anything, but it's kind of like a twist on like a haunted tale. So like there are these houses and they're kind of haunted, I guess, but then there's a little twist that we'll talk about later. But so if you're like into that, I thought it was like pretty solid. And the thing about this movie too, as far as like the hauntings goes and the jump scares and like you really have to pay attention, is like this is a Spanish movie, so I had to like read it. So there's like no looking away. Like you have to, if you want to know what's going on, you got to read the screen. So I think that maybe just kind of adds a little bit.
Lock yourself in a hyperbolic chamber with sensory deprivation tank or something to watch this. What's wrong with you?
I'm just saying you got to be looking the whole time if you want to know what's going on.
Well,
so,
it's not like there's anything distracting going on in the world. Okay, come on.
So yeah, I give it at least a light recommend. I don't know if I'll ever watch it again either, as like Randy mentioned, but it was fine enough for my initial watch. And I think since it's a dry year, with new movies coming out, I think you could get into this for sure. Mom,
yo,
would you recommend Terrified?
Terrified. Terrified.
Are we ever gonna give the
Snoke's Buenos Aires vacation, as I call it?
Snoke goes to Argentina.
Old snorkeling Snoke.
Snorkeling Snoke. I'm down with that title. There we go. We workshopped it. Came back with the right stuff.
Everybody needs a vacation.
Bob, what you think?
That's the tagline. You did it. You did it.
Everybody needs a vacation. I'd never seen this before. Heidelberg, I gotta give him props. He's been sort of like waving this terrified flag in the Slack channel for quite a while. He's been trying to recommend it and talking pretty highly of it. And because of that, I threw this on like once prior, and I watched like half of it, and I just never got back to finishing it. It's not that I didn't enjoy it; I did. I just, for whatever reason, never did go back to it. So this was my first.
Convenient.
This is the first time I sat down and watched the whole movie start to finish. I enjoyed it. I would recommend it. I think it is, Justin, you were kind of getting into this a little bit. It's like, it's not a haunted house movie. It's like a haunted houses movie, which is kind of a neat spin on it. It's like a haunted neighborhood almost. And even though it feels a little like scattershot plot wise, but there's legitimate scares that they earn, and some are a little familiar, but some are like fairly original and truly horrific. And I dig that aspect of it. Like if you want a legit spooky movie, throw this on, and I think you'll probably enjoy yourself. And it's on Shudder, and it's like 80 minutes long, so that I appreciate.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's pretty concise.
Yeah. So yeah, I would give it a recommend. Yeah, check it out. All right, let's go and drop.
I like your hat.
I do. I just really, Snoke looks good in a hat. Let me.
He's a hat
you.
boy.
He's a hat ditty.
Uh-oh.
What? Huh? What?
Spoiler warning.
There it is.
You have been warned.
Mom,
Yo.
did you have time to type up this plot synopsis this week?
I did. I typed one up. It's somewhat beefy. I will read quickly.
Oh my lord! Why? This movie's pretty short.
Yeah,
Is it Crunchwrap beefy or is it Chalupa beefy?
It's chicken and extra cheese.
That's not beefy in the least. There's no beef on that.
Sorry, it's the lean meat. When you get in your 30s, Justin. Sometimes you don't want all the red meat. So,
I see. Well, when I get there,
buddy, you've got a while, so don't even worry about it.
You're going to be young forever. Forever. This is where we flash forward. Sorry. We'll get there one day.
Burr. All right, let me read this real quick. Okay. The movie opens up with Alicia refusing to cook dinner because she hears voices coming out of the kitchen sink drain. Her husband, Max, comes home and he insists that it's probably just their loud-ass neighbor, Walter, next door. That night, Max hears some loud banging and he thinks it's Walter, his neighbor. He walks next door to tell him to keep it down, but he doesn't answer the door. Max ends up returning home and he realizes the banging is coming from his own bathroom. When he opens the door, he sees his wife flying through the air, slamming her head against the wall in the shower. Max is then arrested for allegedly murdering his wife. He then spends the remainder of the movie in jail, and he's visited by Detective Funes, Yano, and Albrecht, and they say an almost identical case recently happened in America, and they want to know the details of the weeks preceding his wife's death. So through a series of flashbacks here, we see 3 separate households in the same neighborhood are all dealing with some paranormal goings-on. Walter...
It is very bizarre indeed.
Very bizarre indeed. Walter he ends up seeing this lanky, naked creature around his house, crawls out from underneath his bed. He thinks he's hallucinating at first, so he calls his doctor and asks for some medication, but his doctor doesn't give him any. There's a little boy who lives across the street from Walter. He ends up getting hit by a bus and he dies. The kid then digs himself out of his own grave, returns back to home, and pours himself a little bowl of cereal, which is terrifying and also kind of funny. Detective
Count Chocula.
Fun! Detective Funes is then called to investigate the mysterious zombie child. Funes gets there and he calls his buddy Yano for assistance because Yano has experience speaking with the dead, as we come to find out. While Yano is investigating, he runs into Dr. Albrecht, who is across the street looking at Walter's house. She is a paranormal investigator, and Yano has attended many of her talks, and he's a big fan of her work. He asks for her assistance on the case. A little boy then hops over the fence, and he sees the dead little rotting boy corpse, and he's terrified because of it. Yano and Funes then move the body to the deep freeze in the backyard, and the little kid videotapes this. His mother later finds the footage. Then we flash back to present day, and Funes, Yano, and Albrecht ask Max if they can stay in his house overnight and just continue their investigation. He says, sure. So Dr. Rosen's...
Just like that. Sure.
You guys just go right ahead.
You just do what you gotta do there, don't you know? Dr. Rosenstock, who is Albrecht's colleague, is also going to assist in this overnight debacle here. So each paranormal investigator is going to stay in one of the haunted houses overnight. Yano stays in the little boy's house, Albrecht stays in Max's house, and Rosenstock stays in Walter's house with Detective Funes. Rosenstock finds the creature under Walter's bed. He tells Funes it's all about your perspective. Funes kind of freaks out. He runs across the street to see Yano. He finds Yano crammed into a china cabinet with glass in his eyes. Funes then goes to see Albrecht. She sort of gives us an info dump here, saying there are multiple alternate dimensions, and there are microscopic beings living in the tap water that gather and reproduce in the human body. They can take control of human bodies, which is sort of confusing at this point, and then her head just gets bashed in.
Yeah.
And then we've got
more info dump.
Right. We've got the mother of the little boy. She rolls back up, and she has exhumed her son again, and she's got him in the back seat. Funes is about to hop in the car and get a ride out of there, but then he's like, nah, no thank you.
He says, nope.
Nope.
Oh, you know what? My Uber's here.
I might take the bus.
So Funes does end up hauling ass. He leaves the neighborhood. Then he's contacted by one of his patrolmen on the radio. His patrolman is in one of the haunted houses, and he's trying to find Funes. So Funes returns to save his coworker. He gets there and he finds that the mother of the little boy ends up hanging herself, and he's like, you know what? Fuck this. Takes some gasoline, pours it all over the house, tries to light it on fire with a match, but the match gets blown out by old glassy-eyed Yano himself, which is terrifying. Funes ends up shooting the gasoline.
Terrified, Rob.
Terrified. He ends up shooting the gasoline to ignite it, burns the house down. Then we flash forward to present day, and Max is still in jail, and he's now being interviewed by some cops. They think Funes is just like a straight-up killer, and he just murdered everybody that night. Max is then shown a picture of Rosenstock, and Max is like, oh, he doesn't look like that anymore because his face is all burnt up. And turns out the ghost of Rosenstock is like chilling in the jail cell with him, and he throws like he ends up throwing a chair towards the camera, and that's sort of like the end of the movie. We end on a little final jump scare there. That's it. That's everything.
Okay. Thank you for that one, because I needed that for this movie.
Yeah,
And
there's a
even
lot
still-
happening. There's a lot happening.
Yeah, and I
There's a
still have
lot.
questions.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, let's just like jump right in it, because I think that like the story is my biggest problem with this movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's because it's not clear, pretty much
Yes.
top to bottom.
And
Like
I always wonder this with foreign language movies, if something is lost in translation here.
I wonder that too. I wonder if there's
Yeah,
like
because
cultural
mine's-
stories or something might factor in somehow
Maybe,
that we
yeah.
don't know.
When also specifically, there are a couple times where I was like looking at my Netflix and I would pause and I was like, I just don't think they have this right, because it just
Yeah.
didn't quite seem like correct. I don't know. So
I'm
yeah,
gonna go get some dog leashes. What are you
Yano! It's kinky.
but I mean, but I still think there's like there can't be enough missing to where it would just save this film. I mean, there's definitely some holes here. But yeah, and even to the point, it's a little just disconjointed too, because the first half of this movie, I actually thought, oh, this is kind of a cool idea for an anthology. I thought they were trying to do like a different take on an anthology style, where because they bounce
jumping from house to house?
from 3 different houses at first. Yeah. And I was like, oh, and each one was kind of a little bit different, because the very first one we see is the opening one where the girl is like banging back and forth. So it's more of like a straight haunting. Then the second one is the dude in the house next door. And we see there's like actually things in there, like more of a creature feature kind of thing. And then the third one was like where the boy dug himself out of the grave. So we're getting like
Ghost
3
story.
different styles of scares. And I was like, oh, this could kind of be cool. But then that's not the direction they go. Then they like bring it all back together, where I don't know. So I was kind of disappointed by that, because I thought it was a cool concept.
I didn't really think of it that way, but yeah, it did kind of feel like I had a problem with how that went down, because I didn't see it as an anthology or an aim for that. To me, it felt like okay, they're introducing another fucking character and an entire do these people know each other even? What's happening? Like I was very like I understood that Walter was next door, and I was like, okay, so maybe this is like something that happens for this guy, and they were just the setup for this guy. Like, you know what I mean? The cold open for him. But then he gets dispatched pretty quickly. And we end up looking at, like you said, at the little boy and his mom. And it's just very, it just didn't really like make sense to me. I was like, all of a sudden we're with this cop, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess this guy's maybe the lead character. And then he kind of is for a while, but then the investigator comes in, and then he kind of becomes it's just unfocused is what my problem is.
Yeah, I guess
You're right. There's no character to follow.
Not for a while. And then when you just kind of are led by the nose to the character they want you to be at. And it feels very much like you're being led by the nose.
Yeah. Funes, the second half of the movie anyway, really pulls you through the different haunted houses. Like you kind of follow him as he's kind of coming unhinged, because the other 3 people are paranormal investigators, and they're a little more comfortable around these spooky things, and it's all new to him, so he's having his mind blown like at
He's got a
every
crazy
house.
blood disorder or some shit.
Yeah, and,
That they keep referencing.
He's got
And
like
I don't think it even comes into play really.
I don't think so either. He says he's got a problem with coagulation, and he also can't hear well, I guess. I don't know that either of those
Which they
things
did
really
do
matter.
a scare.
Yeah.
I mean, they used it one time where he like turned his he turned it
Hearing
off
aid.
or something.
His hearing aid was able to hear the ghost speech or something. So that played out. But like the coagulation thing, I don't remember them talking about that ever again. He did have a heart attack later, but that's not the same thing. So
yeah, that was the only thing where they brought it in where he like collapsed on the floor, and maybe they just needed some excuse for him to be able to collapse on the floor.
Yeah.
I mean,
so this movie does start off seeming like a straight up ghosty movie, but I think it's more like the central thesis of this is like the water. Like everybody's drinking the water in this neighborhood, and they
do bring that up.
They're getting like taken over. Their bodies are sort of getting taken over by these microscopic beings that are from an alternate dimension somehow. And then in I forget whose house it is. It's the lady's house, I think. There's like a big crack in the wall, and it seems as though that's like like a portal opening up to the other dimension too.
I think that was the opening couple, like
it might be Max and his,
because he was was it Max the guy in it? Because he's complaining to Walter about his wall being cracked,
about the crack in the wall. That's
you're right.
So I think I was there at his apartment,
and Yano went to the house where the little boy was.
So like maybe the little boy drank water before he died, and then that's
we saw
why
him
he
drink water.
Okay, all right. So
that's right.
Well, but
from his neighbor's spigot.
From his neighbor's spigot, it was Walter's spigot because Walter, like we see his eyes, it's like, hey, get away from my house, like you don't want to be here, and the kid like backs up and then dies. But
gets hit by a bus, a la Mean Girls.
So then, if they're microscopic, what the fuck is the snow thing? What are those?
I'm not clear.
Like a creature. I'm guessing here. I don't really know. I guess that's a creature that maybe like came through from the other dimension and is just like hanging out in Walter's house or something, because they say like, I guess these things exist, but it depends on your perspective and how you look at it. And they can look underneath one side of the bed and they don't see it, but they look under the other side and then they do see it. So like maybe it's just always there, like living in Walter's spot.
So weird.
But it's just
like The thing is about it is like the lore and the mechanics of how this works. They try and establish them a few times, but they don't hang together. It's like they don't seem consistent, and like they kind of like certain things just kind of get forgotten and become unimportant. I don't know. It was just hard to follow for that reason. The thing is like the thing that gets this movie by is two things. First of all, the performances are good. Yeah, for the most part, I would say the performances are all good. And the second thing, which feeds off of that, is the scares are really cool for the most part. So Dude, that's kind of the thing that counts for this movie.
The first kill with the woman flying around in the bathroom was like jarring. I was like, holy cow.
That was brutal as fuck because the guy, it's his wife. The guy, like, you hear the thudding, and so it's already building the tension pretty well, like, hey, what's this? And even he hits like his neighbor's speaker, like, hey, I'm gonna talk to you, and you hear like that somebody responds, but they don't speak. So it sets it up good with the spooky doings, and they already had a conversation where she said like the voices said they're gonna kill me or whatever. That's fucked up. Then he goes into the room and she's just flying through the fucking air. Kind of reminded me of Nightmare on Elm Street where we were talking about
very much
because the blood
being dragged by nothing
smears on the wall, and it's like it's just like bashing her head in, and the man like tries to stop, and you could see immediately the way this guy actually goes into a shock was pretty convincing because he's like talking to her like, stop this, like what are you doing and stuff. Like I thought that's
couldn't process it at all.
That sold it like really well, but as he's holding on to her, like she keeps flying and bashing into the fucking wall, and like her blood is just like coming down into his hands and shit. It was brutal as fuck.
And also, like the reason it felt so brutal too, I think, is just the mere shock of how deep they went so quickly. Because at the beginning of this movie, like you said, it felt like a haunted house sort of thing, and they had like whispering from the drain, and you had a creepy voice on the other side of an intercom. But that was it. Like that was it, and some banging, and it's and just like minor setups. Oh, my neighbor Walter, and maybe it's him. All this shit, but. You think to yourself you're setting up a long play with these things, but they're not. They go fucking balls deep within 10 minutes, and you're like, oh shit, and then you get introduced to the next character, and that's why I thought, like, as a cold open, I think that scene works pretty damn well, to set the stage for, like, no, we're not fucking around, like, yeah. But then they move into this weird thing, like we mentioned before. So, I don't know. I think that that's a great opener. I think the kid getting hit by the bus, even though it's kind of played out, I think at this point, and is certainly the least unique kill in the movie. I think that it still was effective because of the way it affects Walter, the character of Walter, because he's just trying to protect this kid. And by trying to protect him, he kills the kid, and he's too scared to leave his apartment to even do anything about it.
And also kind of like lingers on it a little bit, like his little body's like kind of twisted up in the street. That was pretty. And
the kid inching towards him, his friend inching towards him, that was pretty grim. Pretty fucking grim.
That was,
Use a pressure washer to clean his blood off the street. It's brutal.
Yeah, and then the kid's return was even better. Like,
oh my, that poor fucking kid is done. Like,
dude, the kid, like, as he appears in with the Count Chocula, bowl of Count Chocula and all that shit, like, that was pretty fucking terrifying, because that the corpse effect on there, the makeup effect was fucking great.
Yeah, it's good.
It was
like
good.
Top tier, I would say. It was like, it wasn't like, green, pussy, fluidy. It was like dry, almost half mummified. He looked like, this is going to sound really grim, because it is, but it reminded me of pictures of Emmett Till. It was very, very grim and very, very brutal to look at. This poor kid, and he's just like covered in black soot and dirt, and his fingers are all bloodied because the implication that he scraped his way out of the dirt. I don't know. It was really effective to me, and I loved every time they showed it. Like, even like when it knocked the milk over, I thought that was great. It knocked the milk over off screen, and it cuts to the milk just rolling over onto the table.
Yeah,
and then later
they say, like, we swear like we've seen him move, or whatever, but
they probably overplay that a little, I think.
Well, you're expecting him to, because you're like, oh, I know, like, that's a jump scare, like, he's gonna move, but he doesn't. It's really just the milk. So actually, that was pretty smart the way they kind of handled that a little bit.
But then they do kind of show it move later when his neighbor kid is looking through the window.
Yeah,
at this corpse. He's not. They don't know he's there. They don't know this other kid's there, and they're in the other room. So he's looking at the corpse of his old friend sitting there with milk and shit, and the thing turns and looks at him, and that was really fucking good. It was really good.
The corpse of the kid also ends up crying. Like, when they move it in the deep freeze, he starts kind of crying in the hair, which is twisted. Also, like, when he knocks the milk over, Funes and Yano are having a conversation about how Funes is in a relationship with the kid's mother, and that's when he's like not having it, and he knocks his milk over. I thought that was kind of a cool, like, reason for him to finally react.
Really, I didn't piece that together, and I wasn't sure about that relationship thing. I think that he said they were partners, but at first I thought they were police, like they were. Yeah, she was his police partner, but I think they were romantic partners, which to me kind of implied maybe that's his son. I don't know, but they didn't monopolize on that at all.
I don't think it's his son. I think they were just he was dating the kid's mom. And then at the very end of the movie too, when Max is in jail being interviewed about Funes and by the cops, they think he's a serial killer. They're asking him specifically about his relationship with the kid's mom too, and like, how was it? Did he end up killing the kid and the mom, or like, what's going on there?
Okay, yeah, it was that's like just another example of this movie, I think, being a little bit too like it's weirdly open about certain details, but then it doesn't like fully tie those details into the rest of the movie, and it just leaves these big gaping holes, like Justin said, where it's like gaping.
I like how each house is handled a little bit differently, but it is, like I said, it's kind of scattershot and leaves you kind of confused. Like in Walter's house, I dig the like lanky naked creature living under the bed.
Yeah, like, I think it's a pretty creepy fucking looking thing.
Totally.
Oh yeah,
it's solid. And
that whole like segment, it was like spooky to me. Yeah. Holy shit! Like when it crawled out from under the bed on the camera or whatever, I was like, oh my god, not about that.
Yeah.
The first sight that you see him, I don't know if you guys saw him when I did or what, but they did this shot where they pan down as he looks under the bed, and then as he's climbing back up, and it pans up with him, and you can just just make out a face come into frame underneath the bed as it pans past it. And then like a second later, they pan back down and he sees it, or he either sees it or we see the full effect of it. And I thought that was really fucking great to just have like I was like, oh shit. And Becky's like, what? And then like and a few seconds later, it pans down and you see like the whole shebang for a second. And it's like, it was almost like rewarding you for paying attention, for being as paranoid as this guy. But I also liked like this thing that they did. This seemed unique to me. This monster, and I think pretty much any of the other sort of like creatures that you see in this movie, they have this way of moving where it depends on your angle of vision or something like that. Like it's a little unclear. Again, it's another one of those things that's not fully fleshed out or not made canon or anything. At first I thought it was, you have to be looking through a glass, looking through some sort of plane of glass, a window of something. But that doesn't seem to be the case later on. So it's just like from certain different angles you can see it, and from certain angles you can't. And because it's a dimensional thing, I suppose. But I really like that because to me, that's very evocative of like being in your room at night and being afraid of something in the corner that you logically know isn't there. You turn on the light and you're like, okay, there's nothing there. You turn it back off and you're still kind of freaked out that it's there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
They usually play it off, like movies will usually play it off light, like the movie Lights Out, which, you know, the movie wasn't great, but the original short was great. But this takes that a step further because it's not dependent on light. It's just dependent on where you are physically.
Perspective.
Looking.
Yeah. And because there's even like later, they go back, like each paranormal investigator has like their own house. And so like the guy exploring Walter's house, he figures it out that they're under the bed. And like, if you look through the main section, like where you lift up, like where the bed is long, then you can't see them. But as soon as you go to the end of the bed where it's like short and you look in, then you can like, it sees their feet, and there's like several of them. They're like crawling
either
under
several
there.
Or he's folded. I couldn't tell which.
It's very disturbing, but it feels like, see, the problem is you have those creatures, and then you have this explanation with these creatures that goes along with it, that you see them through perspective. Okay. So that's one take that we have to follow. And it's a cool take, but it is a little confusing. Then there's this whole other take about microscopic things that take over people's bodies, which would make sense with, okay, that fits with the boy, because then he he crawls himself out of his grave. Okay. But then you have like this whole other take of like a multi-dimensional thing where there's a crack in this wall, and then there's like things coming out of the cracks. And it feels very unfocused. It feels almost like they had these cool ideas and they wanted to try to force them all together, and this is the best they could do, because it is not like, it's not joined well. Like all of those different things don't make sense together.
I think they started, this to me not stinks, but this has reeks. This has the indications of something that was written backwards from the scare to the script.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So they had the idea of how it plays out for the person that you're supposed to be following in the scene. But then later on, they're like, okay, so how do we get to this point? How do we explain how this is working? Do we explain it? You know, and to that end, they didn't do so hot, I don't think.
And that would make sense from the perspective of like lack of character development or anything like that, because the characters are just like second to just these visuals and these scares. And another thing it suffers from, it's unfortunate because the scares, a lot of them are like original, and like I thought the boy looked great, like you said, the makeup and everything that went along with that. But some of this looks rough. Depending on CG, looks rough to me, like where the arm comes out of the wall to grab that lady's head and like twist her neck sideways. That looks stupid to me. Like I thought that looked like chintzy.
I mean, I can see your point. I didn't see it as stupid looking, but it wasn't an effect that stood out as being extra great.
Yeah, and then also, I mean, like the Snoke thing, like under the bed, it is scary. But once you get over that initial thing, like just the CGI that they have to rely on is like not the best because they have to like light it really well for it to look realistic, but then that makes it too bright to me, in my opinion. The way I saw it, then it started to look more like a video game, like that effect where it's like, oh, you want to be able to see it, and so it looks realistic, but then it's like too well lit up, and so then it's like doesn't look like it would be in the shadows or anything. I don't know. It's just kind of how I felt about it.
I can see that. To me, that didn't really play out the same way. It was like I think that creature was I think the worst thing they did with that creature was show just a little too much of it. I think that's really it. Like just if they had trimmed or just implied him just a little bit more and had just like the shot of him under the bed and then the shot of him blurry in the background emerging from the cupboard or the whatever, the armoire, I think those would have done the trick on their own. You know what I mean? Like you didn't need to really see a couple of more shots of him from the different at the same time. I say that, but at the same time, that is also what gave us the inkling of, okay, so it's from angles that you can see these things. The problem with that is that they don't really capitalize on that as an idea. It's just something that you're presented with and just happens. Like it doesn't, like as much as it's like, okay, oh, it's interdimensional. And that's just kind of the end of the conversation on it. And things kind of semi apply by those rules throughout the movie, but not entirely. And it doesn't factor in any way. I don't know. It's really bizarre. And I did like the shot of Yano looking across the street and seeing the Snoke in the mirror in the window or whatever, looking at him, but he had to like peer over to the other side. The other plane of glass didn't see him. He kept looking back and forth. He's like, are you sure that's not you? He's on the phone with the detective. And then like the last time he pans over, it's like right in his face. I thought that was a cool scare, but again, it just sort of like eliminated a character of interest because Yano, like it's like having this Yano is like Loomis and fucking the lady is like Lin Shaye, and you expect great things from them. I don't know. I was expecting them to sort of like not just info dump a little, but also be there for the big climax, to be the house is clean person there that can guide us through how to solve this.
The house cleaner.
Yeah.
They got to clean.
The house cleaner. Yeah. Racist.
I didn't think the Snoke creature looked too bad, but as far as the stuff that was going on in Walter's house, there's like some cool stuff leading up to it before they get to the whole like it's all about your perspective, man. And like Rosenstock is in there, and there's like a bunch of cutlery that are like dangling from the bottom of a cabinet. Like there's some sort of magnetic thing happening with this cabinet. And Rosenstock's hand gets like thrown into a knife, and he starts bleeding. And there's like something in the cabinet that starts sucking his blood, he says. And they open up the door, and they don't see anything. But then you like hear it scurry away, and like that's not Snoke. That's got to be something else. But I don't know.
There's other creatures.
Yeah, like why are some creatures sucking blood, and what's the deal with like the magnetism stuff?
Great question, man.
What's going on?
There's two all over the place. Yeah, that's a good call, man.
It's just scattershot, you know. And that's like that Rosenstock character, by the way. Like, he do anything? Like
he was just thrown into the mix, man.
Yeah,
like,
he's just like, hi, I'm here now. Yeah.
But also, the only connection I thought that because he struggles with his Spanish, so like he doesn't speak it well. And the only thing I thought his connection could be is when they interviewed the guy, they said, oh, there's a very similar case that just happened in America. But he doesn't look particularly like American.
No.
But I thought he was just like their counterpart that was tracing it. Yeah, me too. I thought he would have some kind of like insight to give, but he really just gets his ass beat. And then like, I don't know.
Yeah, that seemed like such a wasted opportunity. I don't know what that character was for. That could have happened to the detective. They could have had the detective in there. He's kind of freaking out. He's getting antsy, and then he gets stabbed, and then he starts really freaking out, like the way he did. Like they didn't need. I get all they have to do is just eliminate the coagulation line, and he's just a dude who got stabbed, so he can survive it. But it's like insane nonsense. It's putting him in shock anyway. That works fine. There's no reason for this guy to exist in this movie, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I don't know what the deal is with that. And then all of the researchers, all of the paranormal people seem overtly calm about everything, and then they just die. Like, it's really weird, especially the woman. She's just sort of sitting there like, oh, it's pretty dangerous to be here. And then her head gets cracked. And she gets slid into a crack in the wall.
Albrecht does say, like, these creatures are, they're mean, and she's not quite sure why they're mean.
Aggressive,
and, yeah, right before she dies, though, Funes is like, well, is there anything we can do to stop it? And she's like, nope. And then she just dies.
Yeah.
Like, why would you be there if you know that? Why would you even be there?
She does make a return, though, for like a split second when he's about to escape in his car, and he's like recovering from a heart attack or whatever, and he's about to bolt. You see it coming from the that was a great shot of her like this just insane giant creature like bounding towards the vehicle from the shadows of the house, and then getting to her and her screaming and talking. The CG wasn't perfect there, but the way it emerged was really effective. And you can hear her say, please, you can still help us. We're being tortured.
Yeah. God.
Or at least that's what the subtitles say.
Her head is like upside down. It's
and the detective nopes out and it's like, nope. Torture
he
for
does
you.
Eventually goes back to burn down the house.
I thought it was kind of. I laughed a little bit at that. Like, he's like, I can't blame him, but it's not exactly what you expect from the hero of your movie.
He sees his friends. He's like caught in a cat. He goes to like see Yano, and then he's like caught in the cabinet. He's got glass in his eye.
From one angle.
Like, still alive. Yeah, but only when he breaks the cabinet from the back side. Like you can't if you just open the cabinet regularly. He has to like break it in the back. Yeah. But it's too. Yeah, it's like all over the place, honestly. Now that we're like talking about and breaking it down, it's like, what? They're microscopic, but they're torturing you, but they're also like people, but they also have these crazy arms, but they also suck.
There's no way to stop them, but we're all very calm about it.
They make nests. There's too much information. That's way too much.
Yeah, they needed to stick with one gimmick for these monsters, or maybe two, I think.
I think Albrecht says it. I think Albrecht and Rosenstock say something like they're drawn to blood. So whenever Funes is around and there's blood, they're like telling them to clean the blood up and like to get rid of it, because I guess these creatures are drawn to blood. So maybe they do feed off blood.
But that doesn't really seem to motivate anything, because they killed the woman and blood had nothing to do with it. They killed Walter and like blood had nothing to do with it. So it's like, I guess.
I mean, it's fun. I don't know, man.
That's for torture. They like the torture. Sometimes they need some blood.
They're like really dumb Cenobites. I don't know what's going on with these things.
It was too much.
Yeah, I just feel like there was a little bit of an information overload and underload simultaneously with this movie, which is a really weird line to straddle.
Yeah, it feels kind of like they were trying to do sort of like a Lovecraft, like here's a huge alternate dimension with all these different types of creatures that are just coming through and fucking this neighborhood up. But it's just like there's not enough to pull on, really.
Yeah. I just kind of feel like this movie needed like another draft. You know what I mean? Like
maybe.
There's a lot of really good things to pull from here. The elements are all in place well, like, and they just don't match together. It's like you have the puzzle pieces for three different puzzles mixed together. It just doesn't really.
And honestly, it could have made if they had. Now it doesn't seem like they wrote it this way either. It's just like, and once we got through with the movie, I was like, oh, I was like way off base. But if they could have had the foresight to make this into like an anthology, I think it's a cool idea to have an anthology like in a neighborhood. And if you you could still follow that. Like, oh, it is a portal and all these different creatures come out and each house like has been infested by a particular creature, then you could do something like that, because they don't spend much time developing characters anyway. So I guess like the cop is the one, but like at the end of the day, he's just on the run and you don't really care about that. And even like you feel kind of bad for him. But I mean, other than that, like
there's no arc for him. He's scared and he starts scared and like in physical bad health, and then he ends that way. The only thing that happens to him is that he's then on the run also.
Yeah,
Like,
so he's just relatable, but other than that, they could have easily turned this into something like they brought in one extra house or whatever, and like made it a full on like anthology, but they didn't. So.
I don't think they even had to do that. Like, that's a good idea. I think that would have helped, but I also think that they could have done what they're doing, where they have like, okay, we have multiple cases, like 2 paranormal investigators meet on the street, and they're like, "What are you doing here?" "I'm investigating a thing." "Whoa, they must be related. Let's team up." Like, that's all well and good. You just got to make the parts hang together, and then have a reason for the parts that you keep in there besides just the scare. Like, the scare is great, but you can't, you can. Like, with a horror movie, you can hang it all just on how effective your scares are. I think that's what this movie does, basically. But it would elevate this movie so much more. It would give it so much more to chew on, so much more to chew on, and so much more to care about if they had a single character to follow the whole way, or if they stuck to 1 or 2 methods of how this works, so that can be exploited by the person that you're following, your protagonist, in order to overcome the problem or not, or whatever. But they don't really do those things. Things just kind of keep happening. And like you said, even the woman, like the one investigator who gets pulled into the wall, the last thing she says is, before the torture line is, "Oh no, there's no way to stop it. They're just aggressive."
I'm just hanging out here, having a good time.
Oh, which I guess is kind of scary, but it's like, it also kind of leaves the story nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And it's kind of done too, because they have all these like instruments that they
never do anything with
like
them.
Measuring things, and it's like, it's nothing.
There's like, they could like, even the fucking Evil Dead had an incantation to read or some shit. Like, I don't know. Like, it just feels like this is a well-made movie in terms of quality, production, acting, and scares, but it's not well-made in the story department only. It's really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. That last scare where Funes is trying to light the match and then glass-eyed Yano blows it out, dude, that got me pretty solid. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
That got me all right. Yeah, I would say that.
Most of the scares, they're very tension-based. They're very even though they get away from ghosties, they still follow that ghosty scare logic. And so I had to pull out my brown shorts for this movie, I tension bashed out on it for sure, but it was like
nothing I'd ever smelled before in my life.
Yeah. But ultimately it ends up feeling kind of hollow, it's it's not enough to carry this movie into being better than just okay.
And that's another thing too. Like, even with the scares are good and they're earned, except that they're sort of like, they're really unique up until they're not. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, they're really, it seems like they have a unique angle on these things, and they like the way they get there, the way they get to the scare is a little bit unique, and you don't see them, not all the time, but you see some things in here that you don't see in most movies, even haunted house movies, any of that shit. But then the actual scare itself, like the lady being banged against the walls, that was really harrowing, but it was mostly harrowing because you didn't expect to see that so soon in the movie. Mm-hmm. That's not something we haven't seen in a movie before.
That's true.
And also this thing under the bed, it's the same deal,
Also, too, it seems like they kind of blew their load on the original stuff in the first half to get you intrigued.
Yeah, and there's
by the second half, they just kind of, there's still the cool stuff where like the dude's got glasses on. It's still scary, but it doesn't feel as unique. So the first half definitely feels like, oh man, there's some really unique stuff going on in this movie, and it kind of pulls you in. But by the second half, it seems more of just like and this is how a scary movie goes. Crazy shit happens.
I did
and so yeah.
Yeah, it's another example of what we're talking about is the scene where he's having the heart attack, the detective, which I think, by the way, that was an interesting decision to have your lead character, rather than just getting hurt and having to cope with a physical injury. I got a heart condition or whatever, and I don't know, you just don't, that's not an angle you see so much, because that weakens the fuck out of you. Like that, you're a baby lamb at the end of a heart attack. So that's, I don't know, it's a small thing, but I appreciated a slightly different approach to putting our guy on the outs, you know what I mean? But then he has the scene where he's having the heart attack, and there's the thing crawling out of the wall that just attacked the woman, and it keeps panning from one side of his body to the other side, and on one side you can see this thing crawling towards him, this doom-looking motherfucking monster coming at him. On the other side, it's nothing. I don't know. Like that's one of those situations where you've seen that before. You've seen the monster crawling slowly towards the protagonist, and he's helpless to stop it, et cetera, et cetera. The thing that's unique about it is just how it all went down. I don't know. I'm struggling to claim that there's like full uniqueness in any of these scares. It's just well done for what they are, and the way that they get to the scares is a little bit unorthodox.
Yeah, the one that seems, I guess, mostly original, even though it's still like a creepy kid, is like the kid digging himself out of his own grave, and he's like kind of a zombie, but he's also not moving. He's like kind of possessed. It's just a weird thing. I don't know. And it's really well done. That one sticks out to me pretty hardcore.
And it's also interesting that this movie does this thing where like the guy from the beginning, Max, was it?
Yeah.
The guy from the very beginning.
Yeah.
He's introduced to these three investigators who we've never met before. Mm-hmm. And that we're introduced to them by way of him being in jail or a psych ward or whatever. And he's like, I've already given statements to everybody. I don't know what you guys want from me. I told you what happened. They're like, oh no, we believe you. And like, you skip over the whole thing of like, of like the, police officer, bad cop who's like, I don't think you understand what kind of trouble you're in, son.
Yeah, they're like, we're trying to help you. We're trying to figure this thing out.
No, we believe you. There's a ghost. And he's like, yeah.
They don't for a second think that this man could possibly have killed his wife. They don't even
Well,
and the problem is, though, also too, a thing they just kind of gloss over is Walter apparently sent that video to the woman who that's how they knew to show up. It's because Walter like shot all this video. Got that video, yeah. Mm. And so they just like show the police like, hey, look at this crazy shit happening. Yeah. I've got a videotape. Get this man out of jail.
Yeah, that's true.
Sons of bitches.
I don't know, man. It's all just very. It just leaves more question. Like if you're gonna start answering questions, you gotta ask. You gotta leave them in satisfying positions, and not just leave extra questions in their place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean,
too much.
I don't know.
Too much.
You can over-explain stuff, and they do that, but they don't do it for things that actually make a difference. Like you said, like things that would make a difference in the story. They just kind of, I don't know. It's really tough to describe what the problem is here, but it splits.
It needs another draft or two. Just workshop.
Yeah, it just needs to go through it needs to be workshopped. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really it. Either that, or there's a shitload of information that was lost in translation, and this movie's actually
and that's the other thing.
That could be that could be.
Yeah, maybe this is an allegory for like I don't know, God knows what, insane genocide or some shit. Like I don't know, something horrific that we have no privy to because we're dumbass Americans. Mm-hmm. But
be bilingual. That's the message of this.
Yeah.
Hey, folks, learn Spanish.
Yeah, I don't know. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like we're going to cover the same points over and over again.
I think so too. Yeah. Is there anything else you guys want to touch on before we go ahead and rate this thing?
I can't think of anything.
All right. Let's go ahead and rate this out of 5. Juice, why don't you kick us off? How you feel about Terrified?
Yeah, I thought it was like a pretty fun ride, but ultimately, like I said, feels kind of hollow after the fact. It was okay. I liked some of the things we saw in the beginning. That opening kill was great. The boy was a surprise to me, and the details of it were gruesome, and he looked like really good. The things under the bed like were good for some scares, but I thought they looked rougher, not as good as like the boy. I thought they showed too much of them. And some of the just general CGI, like I thought was like just one of the negatives too. The sound in this was pretty solid. It's not something we really talked about, but I often found like, like the sound seems to be like ramping up pretty good and stuff. I don't know. At least they
sound design, you mean?
Yeah, sound design. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Overall, though, there's just like no one to really attach yourself to that you spend enough time with. It really does seem like it was written backwards. I think that was a good call by Randy. Like it seems like it's all about the ideas of these monsters or ideas of these scares and these visuals that they give you and they deliver on for the most part. but they don't wrap it in anything substantial like character development or, you know, a solid foundation of a story or anything like that. And so it starts to kind of crumble away without that foundation. So overall, I'll give it a 3 though. I thought it was a fun ride and, you know, worth a watch, a cool twist on a haunted house movie, but nothing that like blew my load or anything.
Didn't blow Juice's load. Got it.
It didn't.
All right.
That blew his load.
No. Oh yeah. I'm gonna slide in here real quick into your DMs.
Oh, hang on.
Randy. What?
Bob?
Yeah.
What did you think of Terrified?
Hey, thanks.
Out of 5.
Out of 5, let me tell you, I enjoyed this movie. It's the scares make it worthwhile for me, especially like a shorter movie like this, around 80 minutes or so. Like, it's a nice little like thrill ride. You know, you strap in and you go through all these different little haunted houses in the second half, and you're sort of just you're on the ride with Funes, like, you know, watching him lose his shit like again and again and again. I dig that. The cold open with the woman in the bathroom is one hell of a memorable way to start a movie. And the little kid is just like really that image specifically will stand out to me. I'll remember that if nothing else from this movie. That freaking kid is haunting, and the makeup is just spot on, man. It looks really good. You know, we already covered the plot's a little bit of a mess. There's sort of too much going on here, and a lot of it is honestly they probably should have just told us less, and then we would be like, fine. They dropped like almost too many breadcrumbs, and we're sort of left scratching our head thinking like, well, what the hell does any of this add up to? We can't really make sense of it. You know, there's apparently a whole other world that's like pouring into our world, and that's cool. Obviously there's gonna be a lot going on there, but this just is too much to fit into one movie, and I think they give us a little bit too much of that. But it's a cool idea nonetheless. I think how they chop this up into like a haunted houses movie. I like that idea a lot. It probably would have worked better like an anthology, like you mentioned, Juice, but I dig that idea for sure. I'm going to give this a 3 as well. Randy, what do you think?
I mean, I think we're all in pretty strong consensus with a lot of these points. I don't know what really to add to what you guys are saying. Like, it's just the plot falls short for me. But there's so much that's fun about the experience of the individual scares that it works itself out well. This movie, like the thing is, I'm no more attached to any of the characters in this movie than I would be a 5-minute horror short that was really effective and had one really good scare. And that's not good in even an 80-minute movie. You know, like you want to have a little bit more fleshed out characters, especially if you're going to be having people act as straight and as these people, like, I don't know, it's not like a Friday the 13th movie where, you know, you get a really broad sense of a character just so that they can be later killed. These characters like feel like they're being set up for something substantive, but they just really don't. And like Justin says, it kind of comes out hollow for that reason. And it doesn't really warrant a rewatch unless, of course, we're all just completely off base because of our cultural status. And it turns out there's some like really awesome metaphor at work here or something. Unless that's the case, then I just don't like really attach to this movie. It's like it's cotton candy. It's not a meal. You know what I mean? So I feel like that said, all the other positives you guys said were totally positives. I think that the scares are good. I think that they're worth watching. I think that I agree totally with Rob that the little boy sitting at the table, that's a pretty strong image. And I will remember that from this movie more than anything else, probably. A really strong opening, subverted a little bit of expectation, and it just needed to be fleshed out either with more explanation or with less, and just have those elements, you know, factor into our finale and factor into the story in some way besides just feeling like just a sequence of events that are not really connected a lot of the time. So, yeah, sound design's great, acting's great. Scares are great. Story's a mess. So with that in mind, I was thinking the same as you guys, a 3. So I think it's a consensus of 3s for us.
All right. Yep. 3 out of 5 across the board. It's rare, but it does happen on occasion. We all agree. Look at that.
Oh my God.
What's the math on that,
again?
The math. Ooh, let me Calculating. Turns out it's a aggregate of a 3 even. Who would have thought?
That's some quick math, Bob.
Thanks.
Yeah.
You know,
It really helped that you said calculating because I was like, what is he doing?
I've got a degree, so it's no big deal. You know, it's whatever.
I heard it's an art degree, though. So.
Ooh.
Is that word on the street? Is that what you heard in South Korea?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and jump into our Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users think about Terrified.
Certified fresh to death.
All right, ladies and gents, Terrified is a film that is on RottenTomatoes.com along with most other films. And as such, it has a critics and user score. I'm going to have these two gentlemen try and guess to the best of their ability between 0% and 100%. What percentage of critics and users thought this movie was the bee's knees, the tits, the whatevers?
Whoa.
The bee's tits. All right. Let's start.
Hang on, the Beeziabos.
Got some
Please forgive me.
real sweet yabos on that bee.
I'll consider.
I'll be stroking.
Sweet as
All
honey. All right.
So we only have 13 critic scores to count from here. So there is no critics consensus on this movie on Rotten Tomatoes. For whatever reason, it's just not very reviewed. So keep that in mind as we go through. Rob, why don't we start with you? What do you think out of 100%, 0 to 100%, that the critics gave this movie a positive score?
Ooh, that's a low number. Give me a 60, please.
A 60 for Bob. All right, Juice, what are you thinking?
13. I was trying to do some quick math.
I thought you were saying 13, damn.
Calculating.
No, I don't know. Maybe because it's like a foreign film and I have seen it praised, Scotia, especially like Heidelberg kind of like waving the flag and other people too. I don't know. I think the critics might be a little bit higher than 60. I guess that was the straight chilling average. I'll go 70.
70. All right, man. We Americans, we're real quick at counting things. That's all I can say. So Juice, you're going to take this one. You were 7 off. It's a 77% positive. So if that statistic held through to a few more reviews, it would be certified fresh.
Okay. Hey boys, real quick though, can I get a hell yeet?
There you go.
Can I give you an oh ye motherfuckers? Can I do that?
No, Bob, no, you cannot do that. Please never.
We're not a yes and podcast, Rob. We're not going to sign off on that.
Please never do that again.
Well, now I have to do it again.
Oh Lord, I think you just embarrassed yourself and us a little bit.
I thought I'm trying to be hip. That's what the kids say, right?
You know what I love is that this podcast is every bit as unfocused as the movie we're criticizing for being unfocused.
So unfocused, too, all over the place.
And this is just little do y'all know, this is a scripted podcast. We wrote all of these jokes out beforehand.
Oh yeah, all 2.5 hours of the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we
every week,
every week and type it out. Excel card stock.
What? All right. Here we go.
Previously on Straight Chillin'.
We were talking about Rotten Tomatoes over here. Let's talk about Rotten Tomatoes some more. Audience score. Juice, we'll start with you. What do you think? 0 to 100%. There are 205, I should say, 205 user ratings for this film.
I am going to guess that this is lower than the critics, but maybe not by a whole lot. So I will take the Straight Chillin' Special with the 69.
Ooh, I get to use this now.
69 dudes.
Get to use 69 dudes.
69 dudes.
Use all of them.
Every one of them. It's a sin to waste dudes. All right, Bob, how about you?
I'm gonna $1 Juice and take a 70.
Ooh, 70. Well, will it pay off for Bob?
Mm-hmm.
The answer is no. It will not.
Yeah! Gotta get a
Anyway,
motherfucker.
Anyway, just that was the sound of that joke crashing and burning. Let's go.
Lord.
So let me finish this thing. 64% is the answer. 64%. So Bob, you $1 in the wrong direction.
Damn
you should have
it.
gone below.
Damn.
You should always go below. Like I said, there's no critics consensus. I'm going to pick a random negative review at random. I'm just going to be redundant about that because they're usually funnier. No guarantees though. Let's see. Just another tedious ghost-based horror movie that dwells far too long on less than engrossing exploits of its human characters. That's not funny at all. That's just dumb. That's just accurate and stupid.
Joke's on them because it's not a ghost movie, dummies.
Oh shit. It's a parallel universe unknowable monster movie, idiot.
It's about poison water.
Dumb
Get it right.
Idiot.
You stupid little bitch.
Never.
They're going to beat the ass off of your body. All right. So that's the Rotten Tomatoes segment. As focused as ever on our game. Here we go. Top of our game. Almost 300 episodes.
I love that we get to laugh at all of our old jokes now. And just keep recycling.
We're entertaining ourselves with shitty jokes we made however long ago. Wow.
Hey, man. The people want what they want. They want double layers of our bullshit. All right. Let's move on from this dumb segment. Move to the next dumb segment.
It's self-indulgent, it is. But people sent these to us, so keep that in mind.
They did. And they were very nice to do so.
People named Oos, Lob, and Bandy.
Lob.
That Lob is such a character. What a weird guy.
Oh, Lob. All right. Let's go ahead and get into some trivia.
It's totally time for trivia.
I don't know if we're hearing.
My boy Lob.
Your boy Lob.
I should have told you before the bum drop. We don't have any trivia.
Yeah.
I should have asked.
In fact, you did.
Actually, yeah, I did.
Pretty sure we covered it before we started, but also, it's in keeping with the horrible tone of this episode.
There was a chunk of time where I couldn't hear what y'all are saying. I might have actually missed that, but it's neither here nor there.
That's called selective hearing, Rob.
Oh, what ifs? All right, well, it's time to go hunting then. Let's talk Cooter of the Week.
Cooter of the Week.
Cooter of the Week.
Juice. I want to know what a cooter is. Tell me about it.
Let me tell you, Randy. Cooter's character type and a straight chillin' exclusive. Cooter has to hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a cooter. 5 points are sexual deviance, smug arrogance, manipulation, overall looking attire, and overall patheticness. Boys, can we even claim a cooter in this movie with no characters?
I think maybe the little boy is a cooter.
All right,
really?
Little boy's a cooter.
No, not really. I have nothing.
The only one I can kind of maybe think of is Snoke. Might be kind of cootery.
Snorkel
he's a little
Snoke. Let's break him down.
Everybody needs a vacation.
You think Snoke and the Pale Man vacation together?
Probably. They use the same sunscreen. It's like SPF the 1350.
SPF white paint.
It really lets your skin breathe. That's great.
I actually have to use that too. So
that's why I knew it existed, because Randy uses the old 1350 SPF. It's
SPF shirt.
It's just white paint.
So I don't know. Like, the only person that came to my mind, and this is based on, I can guarantee you he's not going to hit all the points, but I thought Rosenstock was a little cootery. He kind of just shows up, and I don't have a justification for this, except that he has sort of like a sly look about him. And he's got sort of like crazy eyes. Yeah, he's got some Emmett Brown crazy eyes going on. But really, I don't have a case beyond that. So I feel like wrongly convicted here.
Yeah.
Real Central Park 5
It's
situation.
hard to make a good case for anybody really in this. Like,
actually, don't know anyone.
Snoke is kind of creepy, but he's also like a ghost dimensional demon creature, water parasite.
Yeah. He has unknowable intentions. And then all the people are pretty normal folk.
Torturing people, I guess. So that would be like
he's
manipulating.
Like watching Walter sleep, which is creepy and like maybe sexually deviant, perhaps. And,
could be.
I feel like there's no sexual aspect to this movie.
No. Snoke's trying to get it in, if I'm being honest.
Wow. What about the mom? Okay. Can we do the mom? The mom who
she licked my asshole a little bit.
who digs her dead son up out of the cemetery. That's pretty fun.
She does that after her son comes back to life, and she finds out that her lover stuffed him in a
freezer,
a fucking freezer, and then buried him under cement. I don't know, man. Psychological breaks happen when you're mourning. I don't know if I blame her for that.
I don't blame her either. I mean, she looked her dead son in the eye, who like just showed up, just came back home one day. And also, we didn't mention this, like outside the house, you can see like his footprints leading up, like the dirt prints from his shoes, and it like goes up the wall and like onto the ceiling and shit. Like he's just walking all over.
That was pretty cool.
Like that's gonna mess a mom.
It's gonna mess most people up. I would argue.
Yeah, really. Anybody? There's a corpse
just
in
the
my
moms.
House. Just
moms. Weak
They're
moms.
so fragile. They can't even deal with corpse children. What's the deal?
I'm gonna put a sarcasm hashtag on this whole conversation right now.
Yeah, good call.
All right.
It cracks me up that little kid fucking. Even though he's like a ghost zombie parasite child, dude's like, I need my Captain Crunch. I fucking need it.
Sometimes you need your oops all berries. Sometimes you just need
No, you never need those.
Oh, you do, but you do.
Nah, you don't.
Oops all berries. Gross.
What?
Sometimes you need your CT Crunch.
Yeah, there you go. That's some real cereal.
Your
right
Chips
there.
Ahoy.
That's some that's what real cereal is for real men.
For real young men, am I right, boys?
Frosted Mini.
Maybe I'm stupid. No, those berries things are gross.
I think they're the best part. Y'all wrong. Actually, peanut butter crunch is the best crunch, but we don't have to go there.
This is the cereal. Well, I mean, this movie, it doesn't give us a lot to work with.
I know.
We can't. So now we're talking about cereal. This is on you, Hydraberg.
What
Hydraberg? You better call in with your favorite cereal next week.
Hang on, though. I should point out, though, this is a rare instance for Hydraberg, because he usually picks movie, I feel like, based on the Cooters. He always gives us these crazier Cooters.
Actually.
And like, if he wants to try to make a case for this interdimensional Cooter, but I just don't see it. There's not a lot going on here.
I honestly think this is more of a choice of love for Hydraberg, and Godspeed to him for that. I'm glad that he shared this movie with us. I'm glad to have gotten to experience the scares and all that stuff. I just don't think that this is a movie I got to rewatch. I just don't see it as that.
Yeah,
and it's
probably not.
Doesn't have a Cooter. Sorry, Hydraberg, no Cooter for you this time.
If Snoke was wearing like really tight leather or something, like maybe we could
leather daddy,
give him the interdimensional leather daddy.
I have such sights to show you. I don't know why he sounds like Paul Lynde, but that's how I imagine that guy sounds. We're gonna go and show you such sights. It's gonna be great.
Don't drink the water.
But yes,
down, pull it away.
Shit. All right, there's no Cooter of the week this week. No Cooter.
Yeah, man, this is a Cooter free movie. So certified Cooter free.
Cooter free. All right, let's go ahead and get into the social hour. We're letting our hair down. We're talking about what we've been watching this week.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Randy, what have you been watching?
Oh man. Thanks for that lovely introduction. This week it didn't get a whole lot of viewing in. I don't know why. I just was really, really oddly distracted this week.
Weird.
I don't know, man. For some reason, my mind was just occupied with some other thing. I can't even think of what it is now.
Huh.
Yeah. I did on Tuesday night feel the need to unwind really badly. And so I watched a little movie that I've seen quite a few times before, Name a Pineapple Express, which is a fabulous stoner comedy, which I will probably watch again this week now that my mood has significantly improved. Yeah, I fucking love that movie. I know you guys have watched it with me before, or I'm pretty sure we watched it together before. It's a fucking great laugh of a movie. You got to be on board with a little bit of, well, not a little bit. It's entirely focused on dumb weed humor. You got to be okay with some off-color shit. It's Seth Rogen and James Franco and a Judd Apatow flick. So, I mean, you can probably read the lines on that. If you haven't seen this movie yet and you're into that sort of thing, please do give it a view. It's on Netflix. I also watched a new comedy special. I have not fully finished this yet, so caveat to that. But it's a comedy special called Sarah Cooper, Everything's Fine. Are you guys familiar with this?
No.
Yes, but I've never seen it before.
Yeah, it's pretty new. I mean, it's the trailer really got me. If this is also on Netflix, I think it's a Netflix original. Sarah Cooper is a comedian who I'm not super familiar with until she started becoming really like recognized on the web for doing lip syncs to political speeches, like ridiculous political things that people are saying. It's just random people, random political people, who knows who. She's just lip syncing to those weird people, and it's bizarrely funny. And this show, this comedy special, does actually a lot of that, but doesn't rely on it exclusively. The premise of this I love, and the trailer kind of showcases this. She is the host. She is herself Sarah Cooper. The story is she's a news anchor on a morning show called Everything's Fine. And the conceit of the show is that every time she says the phrase "everything's fine," she goes slightly more insane. And it's just really bizarre, almost like Tim and Eric-y adjacent sort of shit going on. I really recommend it. If you like any sort of like Tim and Eric-y thing, if you like sort of like, I hate the term, but alternative comedy and that sort of thing, as it is known often on the web and other places, it's fucking great. I thought it was a lot of fun.
I'm going to watch that.
I have not fully completed it yet. Yeah. I had to stop and go to sleep because, sometimes you got to sleep. I don't know why I was having trouble this week, but I got real tired all of a sudden. Yeah. Other than that, I finally also unfinished and will probably remain so is a little film named Cats. Are you guys familiar with a movie by the name of Cats?
Oh, yep. I know of Cats. Did you watch the butthole version, Randy?
I honestly don't know. I think the buttholes are like blink and you miss it sort of buttholes. So it's possible, but I don't know if I'm going to go back to that well to see the buttholes. I can tell you that from what I saw, it appeared that there were quite a few unfinished CG moments, but I could be wrong about that because the way these things are CG'd looks fucking horrendous. I'm not breaking new ground by telling you guys this. I spent that entire time. It was probably an hour's worth of film that we watched. The only words I could eke out were, what the fuck? What is this for? What is the purpose of this existing? And I have seen little tidbits about how the original musical came to pass and all that stuff. And I got to say, I would definitely hate the original musical as well. The music in this is fucking unlistenable to me. It's just so the lyrics, it's about being a fucking cat. It's just different cats and they have different personalities
and there's
buttholes.
Nothing.
Yeah, they have all their buttholes are different and they all suck. I don't know, man. It's bad. It's real bad. And it was kind of funny in its audacity for a while, but it just gets to be not even that, just painful to sit through after a while because there's no audience for this movie that they made. They made a fucking God knows how many millions of dollar movie with insane special effects and there's no audience for it. The only audience for it are the people that are watching movies because they are bad. That is not the movie you want to spend that kind of money on. I don't know. It's bad. So that's all I got. Other than that, I was just weirdly preoccupied this week. I can't think of why.
Gotcha. Juice, what have you been watching?
They dropped another season, I guess, or another 6-ish episodes of that new Unsolved Mysteries show that I covered earlier. The first season, or I don't know, because it hasn't been a whole year or whatever. I guess they call them seasons, but so I started watching that, and one of them was pretty interesting. One of them was boring as shit.
Oh no!
Boring as shit. I was they really stretched the information they had into a full episode, and it was not interesting to me. So I'll finish that up, and I'll probably do another cast on it because I did a cast on the first one, and we talked about a little bit where there was an alien episode. Yeah. So we'll see if they get into some different stuff, but mostly it's still kind of true crime, person's missing, or they did this and it's kind of mysterious. But One of them was like the one that's like boring as shit was like from the 90s. Like, man, I was like, there's no information that you have. This will never be solved. So
was it like Ancient Alien style? Just sort of like, well, maybe this happened.
Kind of. Yeah, like they try to recreate it and stuff, and they're just showing you recreate it. It wasn't particularly, and so I hope they get better after that one. But so I watched that. I watched a new or newer show on Netflix. It's called Blood of Zeus. And I think I need to do a little bit more research in this. I haven't finished this either, but I think it's the same people who are doing that Castlevania show because it looks, the animation style looks like the same, but instead of, Castlevania and like Dracula and that kind of mythos, it's like, Greek gods. And so it's got like Zeus and Hera and Apollo and shit like that. And it's okay so far. One thing that's interesting about it though is with Castlevania, it's like so brutal. Like the demons that they have coming in and the kills that they do are just like sometimes like almost make you sick. Like they're ripping people's guts out and cutting them in half and just like really, really dark, fucked up shit. And they carry that over into this. And one thing that is cool is they talk about like the battle of the gods, but they talk about like the giants or whatever they came up, which is like subsect or whatever. And they're all just like real fucked up looking and like the things they do to people and shit. I don't know. It's actually pretty dark. So even though it's not focusing on like vampires and monsters and stuff like that, it's still like dark, brutal shit. And they talk about these people who like feed on the flesh of the giants and then that like turns them into demons or whatever. So it's still like kind of within the realm of Castlevania. It's not quite as interesting just because I'd played Castlevania, the games a little bit. So I was familiar with the characters of Scotch, but I'm engaged. I like that style. I like these people who are making these shows. So even if it's not as good as Castlevania, I think it's still worth a watch for people because it's pretty interesting animation and storytelling style. So yeah, been watching those. I think that's pretty much it. I think that's about what I've been watching. Robert,
yo,
what you been watching?
Not a whole lot this week, man. I've been working a lot, but I did get into, I guess, the latest season, if you want to call them that, of My Next Guest.
Oh yeah,
yeah, with
Letterman.
David Letterman's sort of Netflix interview show that they just like randomly drop a few episodes a couple times a year, 3 times a year. I don't know. It seems very random, the release schedule of it. So there's a few interviews on there. I watched the one with Kim Kardashian, Lizzo, and Robert Downey Jr., which I know nothing about Kim Kardashian or Lizzo, which is probably not a surprise to anybody. But they're interesting.
I'm surprised.
Oh, they're interesting. Actually, it turns out I don't know a whole lot about Robert Downey Jr. either. He's got like a farm with like alpacas, and I don't know. He's into some weird shit too.
I think maybe you talked about this last week because didn't you talk about Lizzo being a flautist?
Yeah, I think I might have mentioned Lizzo. Well, I finished the rest.
Okay, I was just having a weird deja vu. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to like call you out or anything. I was just like, wait a second.
I may have mentioned Lizzo before, but this is all I've
You're
been
cribbing
watching.
your own work, Bob. This is fraud on the scale we have never seen in this country.
What you been watching?
Oh no!
This is what you've been watching, Gate. It's happening. It's happening right now.
Oh Lord! I don't know. Yeah, Kim Kardashian's like gonna be a lawyer. I don't know if y'all know that. She's gonna take the bar.
Did you say a lawyer?
A lawyer. Sure,
okay, I heard voyeur at first. That's an interesting career path.
She's gonna watch you, Randy. She's gonna look at you. You're not gonna know.
Peeping windows. Mm-hmm. Man, I mean, I guess she just has the right to do that now. She just became a voyeur.
Professional voyeur.
You got to pass the bar if you want to be a professional voyeur.
Yeah. Is the bar what? The bar's on your window? Is that your?
That's right.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I don't know. I dig that show, that program. Check out My Next Guest. If you want some long form interview kind of stuff, it's pretty cool. But that's really all I've been watching. That's it. Let's continue on. We've got one more segment to get to. It's our Hotline Scream. If you are listening and want to call and leave us a voicemail to be featured on next week's show, hit us up at 904-638-3231. We have one voicemail this week. It is from the gentleman that chose the movie we're talking about tonight, Terrified. Hydraberg called in. Let's go ahead and hear what Hydraberg has to say.
He's terrified.
What up, fellas? It's your boy Hydraberg calling in this week. You guys are doing my pick, Terrified on Shudder. It's a pretty good hidden gem. I feel like more people need to give it a watch. It's probably one of the best horror movies I've seen in the last decade that hasn't been mentioned by most listeners. It's a good Spanish language film, and it's got some good scares. It's really creepy, and I like the supernatural vibe to it. It's the jump scares that it does have. They're not cheap. I feel like they all service the story or the scene really well, and the movie's just got a nice vibe to it. It's different than most other films out there right now, and I'm just glad that me picking it will bring more attention to it in the Slack and the community. Also, shout out to the Slack crew and 2 p.m. Todd. It's Miller time over here in the East Coast, but I know what time it is everywhere else. That's a big thing now. Times. So just I'm glad you guys enjoy it. Well, I hope you enjoy it. I'm sure you will. And keep chilling. Later.
Miller Time Hydraberg. That's what we're calling him from now on.
Millerberg.
Well,
that just sounds like a middle America town to me.
It does.
Middleburg.
Keeping up with the times.
Hope we didn't shit in your cereal too hard there, Hydraberg.
Yeah.
I don't think we loved it as much as you, guy.
Yeah, this movie definitely didn't get us the same way it got you, but I am glad to have watched it because it has been on my list for a while, and I think that we've covered it. The scares are definitely worth the peep. I think. Yeah,
it's a good flick. It's a good watch. Sure. Spooky as hell. What kind of cereal is that kid eating? I gotta know.
Cereal.
It's blowing my mind.
You see the CT Crunch, the real cereal. Couldn't be a Lucky Charm. Couldn't be a corn pop.
What if it's something weird like Smacks? Y'all remember Smacks?
Oh, yeah.
Nobody wants to remember Smacks.
Yeah.
Smacks are a disappointment in a cardboard box.
Smacks and Pops, dude. Get that shit out of here.
What if
Pops are at best okay?
What if it's like Raisin Bran? He's just trying to stay regular as a corpse.
Yeah, that kid loves bran.
The only time you should be eating Smacks or Pops is if you go to some special camp and they have the little mini box.
Right. Oh yeah, you gotta get.
And that's all that's fucking left.
If all the Apple Jacks and Lucky Charms are gone, that's what you get.
Yeah, you guys shoot for the Apple Jacks first for sure. Damn. Want some Apple Jacks.
Frosted Flakes. I got to get my hands on the Frosted Flakes.
And it could be the Count Choc. We don't know what time of year it is or the availability in Buenos Aires. We just don't know.
Maybe he's got a dope mom and she keeps it on deck year round. She loads up in October, maybe.
Oh yeah, that sounds more like a wish than an assumption to me.
Maybe he's slamming that booberry. You ever think of that? Randy?
I just heard boob. I just slamming that boob. Maybe his meals.
Your boy.
He's one of those late wieners.
Boob-airy.
Boob-airy. You guys have any prompts you want to pose for next week's Hotline Scream?
Tell us what this kid's eating. Tell us what you're eating.
What's your favorite cereal?
What's the best cereal you got on tap? Tell us why and make your case fucking bulletproof. Do it.
I used to be a bit of a cereal connoisseur myself.
Oh wow. Wow.
I abstained for many, many years. It just wasn't my jam for a long time.
It's hard to there's so many good ones. I am a big CT Crunch, Apple Jacks, Lucky Charms, the Reese's Puff cereal. Damn, those are damn good.
I'm going for the Honey Nut. Me and Omar. We're the Honey Nut
Cheerios. Dude, Frosted Cheerios are so dope.
Yeah,
the Frosted Cheerios make the milk so good. Oh my god.
It's sugar.
Frosted mini wheats. I love the Frosted mini wheats.
Get that weed out of here for
I'll
me.
stick with the Cheerios on that.
They absorb the milk and you bite into it and the milk just
I like corrugated bran flakes.
When it hits your tongue, you just god.
Yeah, Bob's a
She licked my
Smacks.
asshole a little bit.
Bob's a Smacks guy.
Oh,
Fucking
Hydraberg.
smacks. Who's
Oh,
dude?
Hydraberg.
Even like what were the Cocoa Pebbles? They were so like
those.
thin, but the way they absorbed milk was
Yeah.
really like
They like I don't know, like they formed a blob. Strange shit going on in the Pebbles world.
Can't trust it. Really, you can't.
I just don't trust it.
Dude, we have
I'm
a
not
lot
a
of good
Krispies
cereals
guy.
in the States. Over here, I used to, when I first got here, I used to eat these. They're Oreos, and they're like an
I've
Oreo
seen those,
specific
yeah.
cereal. They're pretty good.
I'll
But
bet.
Korea's not big on the sugary cereals.
Yeah, I would say that's very much an American thing. I don't know. I'm sure other countries too, but we are really exposing the fat side of America right now, talking about our favorite cereals.
This is what we feed to children.
Part of a balanced breakfast, little rings of wheat just doused in sugar.
And throw in some candied marshmallows in there.
yeah,
to
you know,
round it
yeah,
out.
chalky, permanently suctioned in marshmallows, painted like
Freeze
a
dry.
hat.
I like your hat. I do.
Dude, with like the Lucky Charms, I would always I would eat regular, but once it started getting down to it, I would save the marshmallows for like
Gotta
at the
save
end,
the
you know,
marshmallows.
one big marshmallow bite. Oh,
That's
man,
the move.
That's the good shit.
That's
right
the
there.
move. That's what gives you the get up and go to start your day in a healthy way.
I thought that was a soju exclusive. I thought only I did that.
Oh,
no.
yeah.
Oh, no. That's the move.
I thought I
baby.
was the only one that eats crust first.
I thought that was my signature move.
Call in, let us know what your favorite cereal is. Next week, we're going to be back with a brand new
Really?
show.
Really scraping the bottom of the bowl for that prompt, but whatever.
Wow. Wow. Next week, we're going to be tackling the winner of the November poll pick, which was Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Stroker himself.
Yeah, I'd be stroking. Slam your eyeballs into it. Get ready for next week's show. Until then, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. Follow us on Twitter at STR8_chilling. On Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. Send us an email through our website, straightchillingpodcast.com. If you want to join in on the daily Slack channel conversations, let us know on one of those social media outlets, and I'll send you a link to join in on the Slack channel fun. That's all we got until next week. As always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
Game over.